Hey guys, and welcome to a mighty showdown featuring myself in charge of the Skaven, in particular Clan Mulder, up against Blankety Blank and his Lizardmen forces. And I know, treacherous stuff, me going up against my favourite Dino boys, but you know, I'm going to have to swallow that pride and give it the best go I can. So for our forces here, we've gone pretty traditional Skaven, and that is with a ton of chaff with a few heavy hitters. So across the front line and dotted on the flanks, of course, we do have Skaven Slave Spears, the most uncheerful of chaff, but still, they're here. They do a decent job of just slowing down the enemy and buying my force more time. In the secondary line, we've got a little tiny bit more elite. We do have a couple units of clan rats dotted around, but we also have some plague monks in there as well. And I quite like mixing at least one unit of plague monks just to dish out a little bit of damage and keep Saurus and the like honest as well. We do have double Poisoned Wind Globadiers as well. These guys are incredibly cheap, I think 550 gold, and they can certainly pack a massive punch. Of course, relatively low range though, so you do have to kind of sacrifice some troops in front to get the most out of these bad boys. As you can see, coming into the camera shot now, we do have the Thing, the Hell Pit Abomination Regiment of Renown, and I think it's pretty good all round. It is rather expensive, but Fluid Injection gives it a nice little boost and allows it to duel pretty effectively up against all those big, nasty dinosaurs. To help clear out the chaff, the skinks and the like, we do have the Avalanche Mortars, absolute MVPs in certain matchups. I think they're very good in this matchup, also incredible in the Wood Elf matchup as well, so I have to see how they perform today. We have the Pit Fighters of Hell's Deep as well, Regiment of Renowned Rat Ogres, who I've slowly been won over by. These guys, of course, do come in with that glorious Berserk trait. The longer they fight, the better they get. And they're going to be used as a backline protection tool as well as this Hell Pit Abomination. For our leadership core, we do have a Plague Priest simply coming in with some summons up on his mighty Plague Furnace. And over on the other side as well, we do have a Grey Seal of Rune on his mighty Bell, just having an absolute whale of a time as he cheers and kind of darts back and forth. He's going to be coming in with Howling Warp Gale just in case there's Pterodons and the like, as well as the dreaded 13th spell and all of his base stuff, coming in with the Scorch and the Unholy Clamour and the like. Away from my opponent's forces across the battlefield, we do have some Chameleon Skinks doing a little bit of poke and harass in the front line. Apart from that, gone incredibly wide with Skink cohorts dotted all the way along the front line, and they're going to be supported by some heavy-hitting dinos. We have double Feral Stegodon, as well as Kroxigor in this central pocket, rolling dirty with their lord, the mighty Gorok. And as all Footlords have basically been improved, hopefully we get to see Gorok a little bit more as well. I think there was one or two matchups where he was still you saw him quite a lot and he was very deadly. But yeah, he's a pretty powerful boy indeed, coming in with Shield of Eons there, with a Stand Your Ground as well as a Rock of Itza. In the last line here, we do have Saurus with spears as well, coming in to help try and poke down some of the large entities. And we have some cavalry. On the right-hand flank, we have Cold One Spear Riders. And it looks like on the left, we have a similar situation as well. So pretty fun stuff. Let's see how this battle does get underway, as the Avalanche Launchers do come in to rain fire down on these blessed skinks. So in it comes, and kaboom! Doing some really nice burst damage. That's half a unit of skinks dead already. But of course, the Avalanche Mortars have put in a lot of work to pay for themselves. So it's obviously they need to do that kind of big burst damage. Skaven Slaves are going to be pushing forward, trying to keep the fight as far away from my back lines as possible. And we're just raining down fire on the skinks at the moment, switching between targets where possible. And even the Poisoned Wind Globadiers as well, getting in a couple of shots. But there is a big empty line here in my front line. And that's because I was going to plug it with the Plague Monks. But when a Stegodon walks through, it's a little bit scary indeed. So that's a bit of a worry. And on the flanks as well, Cold One Spear Riders starting to pressure. We have managed to intercept them so far at least. Pit Fighters of Hell's Deep do rally to the cause though. I'm going to be charging after that Feral Stegodon, trying to keep it at bay where possible. In the front line, you can see our troops are breaking here, and Kroxigor have forced their way through, so we're going to have to switch the Pit Fighters over to this flank, and the Poisoned Wind Globadier is going to be doing some nice Overwatch fire as well, even though they're of course meant to deal with infantry. Avalanche Mortars already up to 160 kills, have switched target to the more elite Saurus Warriors here, but as you can see, Skinks and Cold Ones and the like are starting to flood into my back line, which is pretty scary stuff for sure. So we're going to have to start committing our reserves. The Thing is going to jump in and intercept the Feral Stegodon. The unit he will certainly be able to deal with, and the Plague Monks have been pushed forward with the Clan Rats to try and hold back the Kroxigor and the like, while the Pit Fighters of Hell's Deep get in here and really give them a bit of a pounding. You can see that Berserk has gone off as well, so they should be able to give as good as they get. We are going to come in with the dreaded 13th summon, Storm Vermin with Halberds, appearing behind the Kroxigor. Even with Shield of Eons, these guys should be pretty effective at dragging them down. Opponent does come in with a Feral Manticore Summon, which is more expensive, but still a good option if you can pull it off, and is going to be coming into the field. Over on this flank, you can see I've kind of crumbled a little bit. Cold One Spear Rider has been pretty deadly. We have pulled over some more Clan Rats to try and protect the Poison Wind Globadiers and the like, as they're doing some really nice Overwatch fire at the moment into some of the larger threats. But it looks like that Feral Manticore has had enough of them and is going to be darting in as well to try and help finish these guys off. In the main blob fights, you can see the Plague Priest having a whale of a time, darting through the enemy as well as this Grey Seer. Trying to stick as close as possible to the thing, and look for a little bit of protection as we focus down one Feral Stegodon at a time to try and finish it off. Looks like we have a really fat Flock of Doom coming in, catching a load of good troops. So some of these guys are summons, the Storm Vermin, so not getting so much value on those guys, I suppose. Pit Fighters have hit their max rage mechanic at this point and gone full berserker mode, which means they're out of control. As long as some of them are clipping this Feral Stegodon and the like, I'm not too fussed who they do indeed target down. Camille and Skinkso are nearby, who can do some nice Overwatch fire, and we have Cold One Spear Riders rallying to the cause. Over in the distance here, we have had our Poison Wind Globadiers forced off, but all these troops are going to rally and try and beat back these Saurus with Spears, and a similar situation keeps happening on the left flank where my troops get forced off and keep returning it back to the main fray. Looks like that Feral Stegodon has been dealt with for now, and the two horrific contractions are going to be darting around, sticking together where possible, and now trying to focus down at the Skink Priest of Beasts, and a little bit of whacking to the floor and hopefully deal some decent damage. Gorok is dueling mightily up against the thing, and of course Gorok will lose this fight, but he holds for an absolute age. He is so tanky. Stand Your Ground and Rock of Itza have both been popped. He's not going anywhere for quite some time. Should be able to do some decent damage back as well. Avalanche Mortars are still consistently firing up to over 200 kills. Now trying to focus down units which are returning to the field, trying to break them off for good. Mainly focusing down these Saurus as well, as I don't think the Skinks have the stomach for a long-term engagement. Looks like Cold Ones have finally committed to try and shutting down this back line, but the Pit Fighters once again are here to intercept. I don't know how much damage and value these guys have been getting all game, but they've been a really good tool to block in units and kind of work as an emergency band-aid to situations to rescue my kind of squishier long-range troops. In the distance, we do have Skaven slaves returning to the field, but so is a Feral Stegodon ramrodding some of these poor slaves, driving them off and helping out the little skinks as well, who can now come over here and put pressure on the back line once more. And it's a very hairy engagement so far. It's pretty close indeed. We are coming down with another dreaded 13th spell though. Storm Vermin are rallying to the cause to try and surround this Feral Stegodon. I really want to rampage it at this point, keep it in one place, and start to slowly try to gain a bit more map control, because at the moment there's just Lizardmen running all over the place and Skaven slaves fleeing in every direction, which isn't too good for us. Poison Wind Globadiers over on this flank are returning to the field as well to do some nice damage, and Gorok is nearly spent at this point, just over 1,000 health left, although he's coming in to clobber this Plague Priest, doing a pretty good job of it as well. Storm Vermin with Halberd Summon is doing a good job as well, hunting down the Feral Stegodon, although a lot of these troops aren't really fighting. They need to kind of wrap around a little bit more to really get their max value. And a Feral Manticore being popped does come into the fray as well, and you can see that Plague Priest is taking an absolute hammering, or macing I suppose, from Gorok, and he's going to allow the Feral Manticore to come in here and finish the job. We do have a lovely little acid breath there onto these chameleon skinks, sending them flying, and we've got a second one coming down as well from the Grey Seer. Just a little scorch, not doing it too much damage, but still helps I suppose. Feral Stegodon is now a rampage, so he's not going to be able to escape the Storm Vermin, and in come at the Pit Fighters as well, but unfortunately the Storm Vermin do go down before they arrive at this moment. In the distance, we do have a ton of troops rallying, including the Avalanche Mortars, who have been huge MVPs so far, done some really fantastic work all round. We've got a load of Clan Rats as well, who should be able to return to the field. And yeah, these Skink cohorts not going to have the best day when these Mortars do unleash that purple holy fire down upon them. And even only 3 Mortars can do some pretty nice burst damage, as you can see. Yeah, those Skinks definitely not going to be long for this realm. Over on this flank, we have more Skaven slaves return to the field, which is kind of the story of this game, just me trying to drag troops back, as the thing does help finish off the Feral Stegodon, and the Pit Fighters still going strong as well, despite losing quite a lot of health. Poison Wind Globadiers now up to a Silver Chevron and 129 kills, firing in, doing more damage. Yes, there'll be a bit of friendly fire. That is the Skaven way. You see, yeah, everything's kind of been poisoned and slowed down and the like. The Feral Stegodon should now be forced off. I'm not going to allow that guy to return. Pit pit fighters want to finish the deal here. Though, good play by my opponent. That Manticore did so much work, helped finish off the Plague Furnace, as well as drive off the Grey Seer. But looks like my opponent is going to throw in the towel with just one Stegodon remaining. So a Pyrrhic victory for the forces of Clan Moulder, and it was a very close game indeed. We lost the majority of our force. Very well played to Blankety Blank. And really fun build all round. I'm loving it, the Gorok pick. Didn't get too much damage, of course, or damage value, but he's just such an absolute beastly tank that he took a lot of damage and a lot of pressure off his forces. Good backline harass as well, managed to push in multiple times, and these Stegodons were always a big pain in my back line. But yeah, nice build all round. Just needed to shut down, I think, the Avalanche Mortars as well as these Poison Wing Globadiers a little bit earlier on, but still some very good stuff. Before I break down my build, actually, if you guys do enjoy, feel free to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe for more Total War Warhammer content. And feel free to comment as well. I do read through them all. I don't think I'm going to be able to keep up with replying to all you guys anymore. I try to reply to every single comment. I am still going to try my best to do that. But we've had like a big surge of like comments recently, which is really lovely to see. And I do read them all. But it is hard, you know, to reply to every single one. But yeah, for the forces of Clan Moulder here, the Thing did pretty good as well and was relatively healthy towards the late game. I was really impressed with the Pit Fighters, not the craziest damage value and kind of damage dealt, very good, but not, you know, hugely high. But these guys did a fantastic job of pinning in troops, and I think they're going to be relatively good, actually. I was initially a little bit worried that their Berserk trait wasn't going to come into effect enough, but chucking them to surround large entities who normally, you know, are quite tanky and take a while to kind of grind through, I think they can be very deadly indeed. But the real match winners here was our artillery, which of course, you know, the chaff was there to defend, but the Avalanche Mortars, 23, nearly 24,000 damage dealt, 251 kills, really neutered the effectiveness of the Skinks. They weren't able to gain any of their value back, but also weren't able to then push into the back line as well, which would have been pretty scary stuff. Poisoned Wind Globadiers as well, 12,000 damage dealt here, as well as 19,500 on this unit, going up to Silver Chevron. They did start double bronze, I believe, and 24,000 gold earned from their damage. These guys cost 550 gold. That is absolutely insane value, and a real underrated unit all round. I don't get to see these guys terribly often. I understand, you know, Skaven front lines do tend to break very quickly, and you need a front line to help protect these guys. But when they work, my god, do they work. And they're pretty cheap as well, so, you know, it's not too big a commitment either, just to bring one or two along. Anyway, guys, until next time, peace, and as always, stay awesome.